Welcome to Recap Planet. Today I'm going to show you a science fiction action horror movie from 2017. The name of the movie is Alien Covenant. The crew of a spaceship that was headed towards a distant planet stumbled upon a previously unexplored haven. However, their joy was short-lived as they soon realized that they were facing a danger that was far more ominous than they could have ever imagined. The crew had to undertake a treacherous escape from the perilous planet. Spoilers ahead, so be prepared. In the opening scene of the movie, a business magnate by the name of Peter Weyland tests the intellectual and practical abilities of his newly created android. The android, in turn, impresses Weyland with his astute intelligence and even goes so far as to name himself David after witnessing Michelangelo's statue. Following his piano performance, David asks Weyland who created him, and in turn, Weyland wonders the same thing. David suggests that they search for the answer together, but remarks that Weyland will eventually die, while he will not, making it impossible for them to seek the answer together. Peter is disturbed by this observation and is left momentarily speechless. As the two continue their conversation, there is an eerie sense that David knows more than he is letting on. In the year 2104, the colonization vessel Covenant, carrying 15 crew members, 2,000 colonists, and 1,140 embryos in stasis, is en route to the planet Orge 6. The android, Walter, who bears a striking resemblance to David, is in charge of the ship, along with the help of the AI system called Mother. During their journey, a sudden stellar flare alerts Mother, causing Walter to initiate an emergency crew revival to awaken all the crew members from their stasis pods. Unfortunately, the pod of the crew's captain, Jacob, malfunctions and cannot be opened. Despite the crew's best efforts, Jake burns to death in his pod, leaving his wife, Daniels, and the rest of the crew emotionally shaken. The second in command, Orem, steps up to take Jake's place as the new captain of the crew. After the tragic incident, the crew gathers in the control room, and Orem reports the casualties and damages caused by the stellar flare incident. They lost 47 colonists and 16 embryos, and many of their secondary systems are offline, but the overall status of the ship is still at 83%. Orem orders the crew to start working to fix the ship, and they begin their repairs. Meanwhile, Walter accompanies Daniels to the terraforming bay to check on the vehicles, where she shares her dream with Jake about creating a cabin on Orge 6. However, after Jake's death, Daniels feels lost and unsure about continuing the dream. Later on, while fixing the ship from outside, Tennessee and Encore intercept a rogue transmission, which the crew analyzes and discovers is from a human. The crew's analysis of the rogue transmission reveals a message that leads them to a mysterious planet that may hold the answers to their questions. The crew discovers a nearby planet that is more habitable than their original destination, Oregon 6. While some express caution and adherence to their training for Oregon 6, Orem insists on investigating the new planet. The journey takes them a few weeks, and upon arrival, they encounter an iron storm that damages their communication lines with their ship, the Covenant. Despite this setback, the planet's terrain, plant life, and water resemble Earth, and the crew can breathe without masks due to the sustainable oxygen. The crew splits up to explore, with some staying behind to check on the lander and study the ecology of the marshland. Ledward, a member of the security unit, accompanies Karina but steps on a plant that releases spores into his ear. Hallett and others discover a crash site in the mountains and find a plant similar to the one that Ledward stepped on. As they investigate, the plant releases spores that enter Hallett's nose. Inside the ship, Daniels discovers a name tag belonging to a scientist named Elizabeth Shaw, who was the chief science officer on a previous expedition. Walter reveals that the ship they are in at the moment is the Prometheus, which disappeared 10 years ago. Meanwhile, Orem and the others intercept a transmission of a woman singing. Karina and Ledward notify the crew that Ledward is sick, and they head back to the lander. Ferris, Tennessee's wife, alerts the Covenant about Ledward's condition, but the communication lines are too damaged for a clear feed. Karina and Ferris tend to Ledward, who begins to vomit blood on Karina. As they rush him to the med bay, Ferris notices something moving from Ledward's back and watches as it pokes a hole in his body, spewing blood on her face. They contact Orem and tell him to return to the lander immediately. Ledward starts convulsing and an alien bursts out of his back, killing him. Ferris gets a gun and alerts the crew of the alien's presence. While going back for Karina, she slips on Ledward's blood and accidentally shoots the ceiling. The alien begins to chase her. Ferris runs to get another gun and shoots it, but it's too fast and she ends up blowing up the lander. Orem and the crew arrive just in time to see the explosion. Hallett starts convulsing and an alien bursts out of his mouth, but it runs away. Lope mourns Hallett's death, and Daniels tries to contact the Covenant but fails. The crew is attacked by more aliens, and they struggle to take them down. Walter saves Daniel's life, and a mysterious man shoots a flare gun, scaring away the other aliens. The man orders the crew to follow him to safety. They arrive at a city where several humanoid statues stand, and they enter a temple where the man reveals himself as David, an android. David explains that he and Dr. Elizabeth were the survivors of the Prometheus expedition. The ship they traveled on was carrying a deadly pathogen that accidentally got released upon their landing, killing Dr. Elizabeth. The crew asks if they have been infected, but David does not give a direct answer. David helps Lope and Cole try to contact the Covenant, but their signals are blocked by an ion storm. Tennessee wants to fly the ship closer to the planet, but Rix and Upworth try to stop him, fearing the storm might destroy their ship. However, Tennessee continues to descend to the planet, despite the danger. In the temple, Walter discovers David's room filled with sketches of various life forms. David, who has cut his hair short, joins Walter and they discuss the differences between them. Walter observes that David has developed more emotions and free will compared to himself. Meanwhile, Daniels and Orem are alone on the other side of the temple. Orem admits to Daniels that she was right about the planet all along and blames himself for the death of his crew members. Daniels encourages him and tells him that they need him now more than ever as their captain. David takes Walter to Dr. Elizabeth's grave, and a flashback reveals what happened 10 years ago. David confesses that he intentionally released the pathogens on the humanoids living on the planet. As the humanoids ran to the temple for salvation, the pathogens killed and consumed them, eventually turning their corpses into statue-like figures. David lies to Walter, claiming that he was badly injured during their mission and that the doctor fixed him. He also reveals that he loved Dr. Elizabeth, just as Walter loves Daniels. However, Walter denies any romantic feelings towards Daniels, stating that he is only fulfilling his duty. Meanwhile, Rosenthal cleans her wounds when the alien that previously escaped attacks and kills her. Orem goes to look for her and finds David with the alien, which is now feeding on Rosenthal's body. David tries to stop Orem from shooting the alien, claiming that it is starting to trust him. However, Orem kills it. Upon seeing Rosenthal's head floating in the water, Orem points his gun at David and demands the truth. David takes Orem to his room, where he explains that the pathogen takes many forms and can mutate easily. David reveals that he has been studying the different forms of the aliens for years because he is the one who engineered them. David leads the captain to a basement where he tricks Orem into being attacked by a facehugger. Shortly after, another alien mutation called protomorph bursts out of Orem's chest. David smiles as he watches the alien copy his actions. Meanwhile, Lope and Cole manage to reach the Covenant and immediately report their situation to the main ship, requesting immediate evacuation. Tennessee and the others decide to descend further into the storm to help their crew. Shortly after, Daniels arrives on the roof and suggests using the cargo lift to evacuate the crew immediately. Tennessee agrees to the idea, but Daniels tells him that Ferris is already gone. Despite being devastated, Tennessee still wants to rescue his crew members. Daniels orders Lope and Cole to find Orem and Rosenthal to tell them about the evacuation plan. However, Cole is horrified to see Rosenthal's head floating in the water, and they realize that something is wrong in the temple. Daniels tells Tennessee, who's piloting the cargo lift, to pick them up immediately. Meanwhile, Walter discovers Dr. Elizabeth's corpse in David's room, and confronts David about the truth. David reveals that he intends to stop their colonization mission because he deems humanity an inferior species to androids and they don't deserve to live. But Walter says he will not let David succeed. David disables Walter by stabbing him in the neck. Cole reaches the basement and discovers Orem's body. Shortly after, a facehugger attacks him, but he shoots it. The alien runs upstairs and attacks Lope instead, and its blood starts burning Lope's face. To make matters worse, the protomorph from earlier attacks Cole on the other side of the temple. Daniels discovers David's archives about his studies on Dr. Elizabeth and the aliens. David quickly finds Daniels and threatens to use her as a testing subject. Despite trying to escape, Daniels is overpowered by the android and is even forced to kiss him. However, Walter manages to recover and intervene in the situation, throwing David back and allowing Daniels to escape. The two androids engage in a fight, and David is surprised by Walter's abilities. Although David targets Walter's neck, Walter fights back with a knife and gains the upper hand. However, David secretly reaches for the knife he dropped during the fight. Lope alerts Daniels that the alien is coming to kill them, and the two quickly board a cargo lift to escape the temple. While Tennessee alerts the others of the alien's presence, Daniels hooks herself to the vehicle and tries to shoot the protomorph. Unable to hit the fast-moving creature, Daniels orders Tennessee to release the crane, using it to capture the alien. After waiting for the right moment, she kicks the protomorph to the ground. Upon reaching the Covenant, Lope is treated for his injuries, while Daniels helps Walter by stapling his cuts on the face. She also thanks him for saving her life twice. With Orum's death, Daniels becomes the captain of the crew, and the two share a moment of mourning for their late crew members. Later on, when Mother goes back online, she alerts Daniels of an unidentified life form on the ship. Upon arriving at the med bay, Daniels and Tennessee are shocked to discover Lope's dead body. It turns out that he was infected by the facehugger. Meanwhile, Walter is in the control room scanning the ship for the alien's location. He informs the two that the alien is heading to the crew's quarters where Rix and Upworth are. Daniels and Tennessee rush to the quarters, but they are too late. The alien breaks in and kills Rix and Upworth. Daniels comes up with a plan to defeat the alien. She orders Walter to close all paths except the way to the terraforming bay. Once the protomorph steps into the bay, she lures it to follow her. After leading it to one of the terraforming trucks, she traps it inside. Tennessee opens the seal to throw the alien into space, but the trucks get jammed, and the protomorph starts to break out of the vehicle. Tennessee releases another truck, which hits the alien, and it rolls off the Covenant. Relieved that they finally got rid of the aliens, Daniels and Tennessee decide to go back to stasis mode. Walter assures Daniels that she will be at Oregon 6 by the time she wakes up. However, the movie ends with the revelation that David has defeated Walter and is putting alien eggs into cold storage as the Covenant continues its way to Oregon 6. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe for more content like this. Let us know what movie you'd like to see next.